Councilmember Barton.
Here.
Councilmember Stokely.
Here.
Vice President Flanagan.
Here.
President Leonard.
Here.
Mayor Aronson.
Here.
Okay, stand for prayer, council, please.
O divine Master, in deep humility, we place ourselves, our thoughts, and our plans in thy hands. We beg thee to fill our minds and our wills with the gifts of wisdom, understanding, counsel, fortitude, knowledge, and piety. Help us not to think of self or personal desires, but rather consider the responsibilities laid upon us. Help us to promote as far as possible the welfare of our people and to treat them with impartiality and justice. Grant us the powers to set a good example in thought, word, and deed, so that thy blessings will be showered upon us and the people we represent. Amen.
Amen. Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I do have one announcement that council did have an executive session tonight on legal, property, and personnel matters. The first item on the agenda is the swearing in of Lieutenant Metz as our acting chief of police. If he will come up, and Mayor Aronson.
Do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Do solemnly swear that I will obey, defend, support the Constitution of the United States
And the Constitution of this Commonwealth.
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth.
And that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
And I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
Does council want a picture with?
Sure, probably.
Lieutenant Metz? Would you like pictures? Chief Metz? Would you like pictures real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
If we can do one with the chief and the mayor, and then one with chief and council, I think that would be appropriate.
What do you want to do here? Or?
Yes, please. Right here, right, the seal would be great. Got it, Britt? Okay, and then full council.
What do we do in there?
Go down there.
Okay.
That's a good picture.
You know me with
Just playing foul.
There we go. Good photo shoot. Chief Metz, I know I speak for everyone when I say we are very lucky to have you. I'm going to try not to get emotional, but you are an asset to the Borough of Conshohocken. And again, we're lucky to have you. So good luck in your new role. And thank you for all your service. And have fun celebrating. Now's the fun part.
We clear out, we're going to have about maybe 20 people.
That's a good thing.
They're all evening. It's all going.
I didn't notice, probably. The first item on the agenda tonight is the public hearing for 139 West 11th Avenue conditional use application.
If Mr. Peters, if you could open this up.
Thank you, Ms. Checo. This is the scheduled time and date for the application of Dirk, D-I-R-K, and Lauren Plushke, did I pronounce that correctly? P-L-U-S-C-H-K-E, for their property located at 139 West 11th Avenue in the Borough of Conshohocken. The applicants are requesting conditional use approval pursuant to Section 27-1903C to construct an addition to a single-family detached dwelling over 50 years old. Your zoning officer, Ms. Stetler, will explain to you any additional specifics related to the application, and then the applicant will have an opportunity to be heard. At this time, I will introduce the board's exhibits into evidence. B1 is the zoning application itself. B2 is a memorandum from Ms. Stetler dated May 24th, 2018 to Ms. Checo and Ms. Rogers. B3 is the site plan for the property prepared by OTM LLC Engineering. B4 are 4 sheets of renderings of the proposed addition to the dwelling. B5 are 2 pages containing 7 photos of the exterior of the dwelling and the property. B6 is a copy of schematics showing the addition to the property. B7 is the agreement of sale for the property, demonstrating that these applicants have standing as equitable owners of the property to bring this application. B8 is the county records for the property, demonstrating that the current owner is Burt Property Holdings, LLC. B9 is the Planning Commission report for the property dated June 14th, 2018. The Planning Commission recommended approval of this application at that time. B10 is a copy of the notice for the hearing. This notice was published on June 7th, 2018 and June 11th, 2018 in the Times-Herald. And with that, I will pass it over to Ms. Stetler.
Thank you. Property at 139 West 11th Avenue is a single-family detached dwelling which is in the Borough Residential 1 zoning district. The property is approximately 9,000 square feet, and on it is a single-family detached dwelling, and at the rear of the property is a garage. There are 2 strips going back to the garage which constitute the driveway. There's also an existing curb depression there. Because the property is 9,000 square feet, it's quite large. The applicant proposes to do a 1,500, slightly in excess of 1,500 square foot addition to the property. It is to the side and to the rear of the property. The property was built in 1925, so it is definitely over 50 years old, and therefore is subject to Part 19, Section 1903C, which requires a conditional use for the addition, alteration, demolition of a house over 500 years old, over 50 years old. Mr. Pulshke is here. He can come up and have a seat and tell you what he's proposing to do.
If we could please have Mr. Polsky sworn.
Pushka.
Carol, would you also sign in Lauren? Would you also swear in Lauren?
Good evening.
So as an introduction for who we are, as you heard, we are Dirk and Lauren Pliszka. We are current Conshohocken residents. We live actually in Tina's ward on Hector Street. I have been a resident of Conshohocken since 2006. I was a renter, and then we did build a townhouse on Hector Street about 10 years ago at this point. So we have a little daughter now, and we are expanding. So we are looking for a larger home. We both work at SAP in Newtown Square, so we started to look out in that direction, but realized that we didn't want to leave Conshohocken. So we were lucky enough to have this opportunity from Bert, who was originally planning to subdivide this property, but for whatever reason decided that he didn't want to do that, and so we had an opportunity to expand on this property. So, which is what we are trying to hopefully to do, so that we can stay in Conshohocken with our family.
Yeah, and I mean, only thing to add is obviously our agreement of sale is contingent upon getting the approval today, so we can move forward. Otherwise, the property is as no value for us.
Right.
And yeah, thank you to Chris. We worked with her through the process, through our application, and yeah, we're hoping that we'll approve our application.
Okay.
Anything further?
Nothing further.
Does any-
Council, go ahead. At this time, council can ask any questions that they may have.
Right. Does anyone on council have any questions?
No, we're fine.
Okay. I personally would like to say thank you for purchasing one of our older homes and continuing the use and development of it. That's what our goal is for Conshohocken, and we appreciate that. So on that note, I would need...
Colleen, we just need just one more thing.
Yes.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in favor of this
Oh,
application?
forgot about that.
And is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in opposition to this application? Please let the record reflect that there were negative responses to both questions, and with that, I will turn it back over to Ms. Leonard.
I will make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
I will
Enjoy your
issue
home.
written notice of council's decision tomorrow.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, best of luck.
So stay where you are for 1 second.
We can go off that.
We good?
Yes.
Okay. There is no work session in July, and they also have potential work to do. And I'll ask Ms. Stetler to come up and just explain from a zoning perspective, but we are tonight also reviewing them from a zoning perspective so they can come to the zoning meeting in July, and we're not messing with their settlement agreement. Okay.
A portion of the addition that Dirk and Lauren want to do will be a garage. The garage will be behind the front wall of the house, but it will not be where the existing garage is at the rear. It is not an accessory structure because it is part of an addition attached to the house. However, there will be space in front for additional parking, which will mean that there will be parking between the front wall of the house and the street which it faces, which requires zoning relief. So we would be asking you to consider either supporting or not supporting their zoning application, which I'm hoping will go to the zoning hearing board on the 16th of July. There's some issues with dates and people being away, but I'm really going to try and hold to that one. So if you have any questions about this, it's one of those odd situations where it made no sense to do the zoning if we didn't have the conditional use.
Anyone on council have any questions?
You would just need a motion to send a letter of recommendation to the zoning hearing board on behalf of the applicant, if you're so inclined.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Good luck. Congratulations.
Thank you so
Yes,
much.
congratulations.
We're happy that you could stay in the borough to raise your family.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And we'll all be at the open house.
And the christening and whatever else.
Second item on the agenda is to consider 139 West 11th.
We just did.
Nope, we did that.
Oh.
Okay. Public hearing on 200 block of Washington Street, Millennium Block A, Millennium Block 4, conditional use application.
If we could go back on the record at this time. This is the scheduled date and time for the conditional use hearing for the applicant Millennium Waterfront Associates LP for the property located at the 200 block of Washington Street, known as Millennium Block A. The property is zoned SP2 zoning district, and the applicant is requesting conditional use approval pursuant to Section 27-1503 of the Conshohocken zoning ordinance as amended to construct a 617,000 square foot office building with a height of up to 230 feet. This application was last continued at Council's May 16th, 2018 meeting. To this date, the applicant has requested another continuance. To allow them sufficient time, they have requested a continuance to August 15th, 2018. If council is inclined, they would make a motion to grant the continuance to August 15th, 2018. Upon the request and consent of all parties to this matter, it would occur at 7:00 p.m. here in Borough Hall in Council Chambers, 400 Fayette Street, Conshohocken, Borough. And if council makes that motion, we will not re-advertise because it is being continued on the record. So if you are inclined, I will take a motion now.
Would anyone like that motion?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
And with that, we will thank our court reporter and let her go home.
The next item on the agenda is the MS4 pollutant reduction plan. Karen McNair, Gilmore and Associates.
Good evening. I'm here to give you an update from the March 22nd council meeting presentation where I also spoke to you about the MS4 program. MS4 stands for the Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System. At that meeting, we had talked about us preparing a pollutant reduction plan, which is the PRP you see there for the Plymouth Creek. So tonight I'm going to talk to you about the plan that we have prepared. The plan consists of several sections, and these sections are all required by the instructions. Public participation, which is part of the reason that I'm here for the meeting tonight. Mapping, pollutant of concern, determining existing pollutant load, select a BMP to achieve the pollutant load reduction, identify funding mechanisms, and identify BMP operations and maintenance responsibilities. So tonight it was advertised that you would accept written and verbal comments on the plan. The plan has been posted on Borough website and is also available at Borough Hall should anybody want to review it. Written comments are being accepted. They start on June 13th and will extend to July 16th. So if anybody hasn't had a chance to review it yet, there is still time for review and comment. Anybody who does want to comment will have to provide written comments. They can either provide them directly at Borough Hall or email them to Brittany at brogers@conshohockenpa.com or .gov. Any comments must include the commenter's name and address. We will then record any public comments that are received tonight or at Borough and include those in the report with any changes that we have made to the report would also have to be noted. The plan is ultimately due by August 12th, so we'll have plenty of time to revise any reporting that we need to address the public comments. So the plan, the identified pollutant of concern is sediment in the Plymouth Creek. So what this plan requires is Borough must reduce the sediment load within the storm sewer discharges in the Plymouth Creek as part of your storm sewer system by 10% over the next 5 years. And how we determine that is first we mapped the area that is within the Plymouth Creek and then the areas within the borough that actually drain to your storm sewer system to the Plymouth Creek. And those are the areas that you can see in purple. There's actually 3 areas. There's the largest one in the middle, and then there's one off to the right and the left as well. We calculated the existing load using a program called MapShed. That's one of the 2 permitted calculation methods in the instructions, so we use MapShed for that. What we do is you have to model the entire watershed first and then the smaller portions, and it calculates out then the borough-specific loads of the total load. So once we determined the load, then we knew how much we had to reduce it by, and we looked at the map, and we selected this area right here, the area outlined in green, you can see. And the reason we did that is a large drainage area, and it's also adjacent to a storm sewer system incoming to the park and outgoing from the park. That area is the lower corner of Sutcliffe Park, and what we are proposing there is an underground basin. So that way, you're not affecting long-term any use of the park. You're still meeting your MS4 requirements. It's already land that's owned by the borough, so you don't have to go out and purchase any lands to do this work. Again, so it would be full, you can cover it over in grass or anything else that you would want landscaping, but again, you're getting full use of the park back once that grass has been established or the land cover has been established. And by that means we can take the storm sewer into there, collect all the storm water we need to, and then discharge it back out to the existing storm sewer system. The loading calculations that we found for this, this is the only BMP that you would need to meet that requirement of reduction. And that is my presentation for you tonight on the PRP plan.
Thank you, Karen.
Karen, I have one question.
Yes.
On the map in the purple, what are the red dots that are highlighted? What does that signify?
Those are your outfalls. So that's where the storm sewer system actually discharges into a stream that
Okay.
would then ultimately flow to the Plymouth Creek.
Okay, thank you.
You said this is going to dump into the creek, right? Does that mean we have to dredge the creek and then shore up the sides
No, this wouldn't.
to clean it out?
No, that's not a requirement at this time. Other BMPs that could be considered, you could do stream bank restoration, which would be installing additional landscaping along there, putting a buffer along the stream. But you're not required to do that. That is another BMP option that we could explore should you want us to. But you probably also have to do some additional BMP, whereas this one would take care of the entire load requirement.
Because it floods down there.
Yeah, it is a floodplain, so that would continue to happen. This does not address the volume of stormwater. This just addresses reducing the sediment load that is being carried in the storm sewer system itself.
Okay. Any questions from anyone else on council?
Karen, what are the next steps in the process?
The next steps is that we'll continue to gather any public comment. We'll incorporate them into the report, and then once the end of the public comment period has occurred, we can finalize the report and it gets submitted to the DEP.
And that deadline is what date?
I believe it was August 12th. Yes, August 12th.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
All right.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. There are two items: to approve and adopt the May 2nd and May 16th meeting minutes, and to approve the May ending treasurer's report and accounts payable in the amount of $731,730.92.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Next item on the agenda is to consider adopting the borough's comprehensive plan. At the previous meeting, our consultant, Judy Goldstein, was here. She presented a overview of the comprehensive plan. There was an opportunity for question and answer. We did address the Montgomery County Planning Commission review letter. Tonight, it is on for consideration for adoption. If you're so inclined, I would need a motion, and it would be approved per resolution 2018-11.
I'll make that motion.
I will second that. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
The only thing that I'd like to say is if anybody gets a chance to go out to the Montgomery County website for Bike Montco, you can take a look at what the bike plan is for Montgomery County, and that was one of the things that Montgomery County had pointed out that they thought that they wanted us to talk about in the comprehensive plan. The response that we actually gave back was it is part of the action plans, but we weren't going to call out specific projects in the action plans. So we will have a link on the website for the Montgomery County feedback and recommendations and with the comprehensive plan so that we can continue to work on being collaborative with the county, but not necessarily putting the individual projects in our strategic plan, because you want a strategic plan a little bit more open-ended so that you can flex with it as the community changes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just thank the task force. Opportunity to thank the task force for all of their work. It was a long year. They put a lot of work, and thank you to Tina and Anita, who also served on that task force. It was a great product that came out of a lot of work. Next item on the agenda is to consider approving recommended revisions to the Historic Conservation Overlay Ordinance and authorize advertisement of Ordinance Number 4 of 2018, Historic Conservation Overlay Ordinance Amendment. The proposed amendment was included in your upload materials. I'm going to turn it over to Mike Peters to give a short summary of what those changes reflect. I would like to preempt the conversation with making sure you understand that these changes were vetted through our legal team, our administration, which included our Director of Public Services, our zoning officer, and myself, as well as one of our long-term developers in town. So we made sure we had input from both a legal, user, and admin perspective. Mike?
Thank you. So as council knows, at your last meeting, we discussed with you some changes that we would like to make to your historic resource overlay ordinance. I think the conditional use application this evening demonstrates that in some circumstances we were maybe over-regulating. You saw how nice their application was for the addition and expansion of their single-family home. And that no longer will require a conditional use under this ordinance. So the prime change initially is removal of the requirement that expansions and alterations require a conditional use. They will simply be subject to the building code and underlying zoning ordinance requirements for purposes of approval. We then took what was left, which was demolition and/or conversion of a single-family home, and set forth more specific criteria. And that benefits both council because you can determine what's important to you for purposes of your consideration, and it's also important to our applicants so they actually know what they need to show us when they come in. So there are, for purposes of demolition, as I discussed last time, there are two different ways that a historic single-family detached dwelling may be demolished. The first is when the Borough Building Code official determines that the building is structurally unsafe. As we discussed last time, if there is a true safety issue in the borough, those are buildings that should come down, and one, it delays things to have council consider those, and two, if your administration is telling you that a building is structurally unsafe, we would expect that you would concur with their recommendation. So those types of demolitions will no longer require a conditional use approval. The second type, however, which is just demolition for any other reason other than for safety reasons, and that may include financial reasons, viability reasons, and at the end of the day, personal taste, which would not likely qualify for a conditional use, those have to go through the conditional use process. And Section 27-1905C, as revamped, contains both requirements for purposes of the submission. So we now have requirements with respect to what an applicant actually has to submit to the borough. So we make sure you have everything you need in your hands to make a decision. I will note that I wanted to point out for you that 27-1905C 2A 6 has been changed slightly as a result of communications with Ms. Stetler. She suggested inappropriately that one of the things we include in addition to architectural drawings are proposed building materials. You see that quite often with historic overlay ordinances. It was a good addition, and so we added it in there. The other thing I wanted to point out from the draft that was sent to you, in 2B2, it previously stated that the applicant had to demonstrate that other uses permitted within the underlying zoning district, whether permitted as of right, by special exception, or by conditional use, have been denied. Ms. Stetler's concern was that it made it sound as though we wanted the applicants to go to the zoning hearing board first, which is exactly what we do not want them to do. So the change that we are proposing to that section is it will now read, other uses permitted within the underlying zoning district are not feasible due to constraints on the historic single-family detached dwelling proposed to be demolished. So it simply takes out the language that would seemingly require them to get other relief before coming to this board. Obviously, if they have tried to get other relief and it has been denied, that's evidence that it's not feasible. But taking it out adds some additional flexibility and is less confusing to the applicants. So why don't I stop there? Are there any questions on the demolition section of the ordinance? So moving on to the conversion section of the ordinance, this is the section, and it's sort of the heart of this, because what this tries to do is set forth how an individual can take one of our historic single-family homes and use it for something else. It contains requirements for what must be submitted, again, just like for demolition. There are detailed requirements, again, in 27-1906-C1F. I will note we made the same change after Chris's recommendation. We are now including that proposed building materials be provided for council's consideration. And again, under subsection 2F, we are taking out the seeming requirement that they proceed to obtain other zoning relief before coming before you. Those are the primary changes to the ordinance from the draft that you have seen. As you can tell, we worked hard to come up with criteria that we thought would be helpful to council. This will continue to be vetted. It's going to go to your planning commission for consideration. Are there any questions on the conversion section? So with that, what we would ask for is authorization to advertise this ordinance. It will not actually be advertised until it is considered by the planning commission. If the planning commission has substantial changes, your authorization for advertisement is no longer applicable, and I will come back to you and present those changes to you at that time.
Would anyone like to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the donation of a police vehicle. So the police department recently added 2 new vehicles this year to their fleet and retired a Chevy Tahoe. Washi's Fire Company has requested that the police department donate that patrol vehicle for emergency services. Attached is the request from Andy Carlin, Chief Orler's response in support of the request. If you are so inclined to approve the donation, it would be done by resolution. It should be noted that this vehicle was in the police department's depreciation schedule, scheduled for replacement in 2016. We took care of it this year. We're now would be potentially be moving an asset from borough administration and police department and donating it to the fire company. If you are inclined to do so, you would be doing that again by resolution 2018-12.
I would make that motion to
Second it.
write the resolution.
Okay. Yes.
We didn't get to that part yet.
We have the resolution, so you just be approving the donation of the police vehicle to Washington Fire Company.
Okay. I make that motion?
Okay.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is a fee waiver request. There is a family in the borough of Conshohocken whose young child is suffering from a disease. I'm not going to attempt to say it, but it's
PKU.
a rare metabolic disease called PKU. They are requesting use of Sutcliffe Park for a wiffle ball tournament in September of 2018. Again, they are residents. This is a disease that they are directly affected by and are looking to not only spread information about the actual disease and the treatment that's not available, but also it affects them directly. So it is in front of you tonight for consideration to waive the fee for use of the park.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
And we will update the family tomorrow to let them know that council has approved it unanimously. So thank you. I'm going to keep going. So next item on the agenda is a request to release a land development escrow. This is for the property at 428 West 6th Avenue. It's a professional services escrow. The administration and our engineer supports this release. It is in the amount of $146.99. Again, a housekeeping item. You are seeing these on your agenda. You will continue to see them. This is closing out a project and giving a developer back his money. I would need a motion to approve the ESCO release.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
The next item on your agenda is to consider approving the Keystone Property Group extension of the agreement of sale and the development agreement. And Mike, if you want to touch briefly on this.
Sure. This is a request that came in from Keystone through their attorneys at Fox Rothschild. The request is to extend the firehouse approval period, which is the period under which they need to get the properties on the lower end of town approved through our land development process, currently ends on June 30th, 2018. They are requesting an extension to June 30th, 2019. We do expect them to continue to go through our land development process. As a result of that, we are recommending that you adopt the Fifth Amendment. I will note that we added to the Fifth Amendment at section, I guess we're at section 2, that any plans that Keystone submits must contain the 150 public parking spaces that are required pursuant to the May 17th, 2017 conditional use approval. And with that, we simply need a motion to approve.
Someone like to make that motion?
I'll make it. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll recuse myself. Sorry.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Motion carries.
Motion carries, and Brittany, if you could please
Sorry.
note for the minutes that Bob Stokely has
I'm
recused
recusing
himself.
myself.
He was trying to, he couldn't get it.
Yeah.
Bob, you just need to fill out your form and give it
Yes.
to Brett. Thank
I
you.
have many copies.
Last item on the agenda is to consider appointing Michael Peters of Eastburn and Gray as Borough Solicitor at the submitted rate schedule for the years 2018 through 2019. Again, this is a removal of the interim title, and if so inclined, we'll just need a motion to make that appointment.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
One question.
Yes.
What, are we going back with the same rates, or?
It is the exact same rate that is currently in place in the interim position. There has been no increase.
That's fine.
Sorry, Mike.
Sorry about that.
All in favor?
Yeah, Mike, but you know what?
Gotta watch her dog.
No problem. It's my pleasure, even at that rate.
Can I think about it?
I would need a
Let's
motion.
make that motion again. I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Mr.
Welcome
Peters.
aboard.
Thank you very much for your confidence, Council. I will not let you down, as you know.
We know.
Public comment? Does anyone have a comment? Question?
Questions, answers?
Good evening.
Good evening. When Mark Green and I were here at the last meeting, we were asking about the soapbox. We forgot one thing. We were wondering if we could borrow one of the borough's golf carts to use that day at a race.
I did look
It
into
would
that.
help.
I believe that
So
is.
unfortunately, the only individuals covered under borough vehicles are borough employees. So I'm sorry to say that the answer would be no. Per our insurance policies and per our insurance company, it's not possible.
Could we give you a rider on that? I can find out about that.
Unfortunately not.
No?
Yeah. We did look into it for you,
Uh-huh.
but it's not possible.
So
Okay.
Mark had reached out,
Right.
and
Right.
we did discuss
I
it.
just didn't get to call him yet and
Okay.
tell him.
John, why don't you try Russ Kerr, Conshohocken Little League? Why don't you ask him if he can borrow her?
We could, okay.
I think they'll let you use it.
And Bob O'Neill used to borrow it from the tech school in Plymouth Meeting.
Okay,
And I'm going to guess that Mr. Conacelli also has one,
okay.
or two.
All right, we'll ask around then.
Yeah,
But I would
that's
ask
what
Russ.
I was doing.
Pretty sure they'll use it.
Okay, all
Okay.
right, thanks.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry.
Any other public comment? Come on up. If you wouldn't mind stating your name and address, please.
Sure. I'm Carol Lee Roundsville, and my husband and I have been in the borough close to 50 years as a homeowner. And I've spoken before, but one of the issues, I have two issues, is about the rental and parking issues. And it's getting to a point where it just seems more serious and getting more severe. My concern is if tempers continue to elevate, we're going to have some major issues on some of the areas. We have to park a half a block from our house sometimes on the weekends, and a lot of it is because of renters. And I don't know if the rental code enforcer, does she monitor anything that's reported to her, or anyone can rent their home out? And what happens in one of the homes on our block is there's probably 4 people living in the home. They come with a friend or girlfriend, boyfriend. Now we have 8 cars. You know, as taxpayers, you know, we pay our taxes. All the renters are benefiting from our hardships over the years. There's something wrong, you know, in the way it's happening. I don't know how you control it. My question would be, is there any consideration of sticker parking per household in certain areas? Or can letters go out to homeowners or even that address and state just common courtesy of the homeowners? You know, I mean, I don't know.
Where do you live,
how.
Carol?
405.
405
What street?
West 11th, I'm sorry.
West 11th, okay.
Yeah.
So that possibly that's something the police could take under consideration in Public Works.
It's just really, it's getting really out of hand. One household has at least 5 or 6 cars, and they're actually homeowners, and that's okay, but there's just it just doesn't seem like there's any control anymore. And then people across from us have driveways that hold 2 cars, and they have 3 more cars on the street. And, you know, it's really becoming a major problem. I don't know what the answer is. I'd be willing to be on a committee to help solve it. I don't know. And
I think from the comprehensive plan, that's one of the hot items. So we'll definitely take you up on that offer, because I do think that we do need a committee. I mean, I think part of what I'm hearing, it's escalating right now because it's the beginning of summer. And I know the 300 block of Hector's and Elm Street are having a lot of difficulty for various reasons, but it seems like everything's escalating right now.
This seems to be
so it might be a good time to start
this is
looking
an
at that.
all-year problem.
Yeah.
You know, and
so thank you.
Yeah, and you know, as far as and I would be willing to be on a committee. I have no problem. I'm retired. I just can't get to my house. The other issue is, I don't know who follows up on tree trimming. I know we maintain our trees, you know, keep them certain heights and all, but there just seem to be a lot of trees hanging on cars, you know, and that's in West 10th, West 11th, where I've really noticed, because I go up and down there all the time, but they also hang on our cars. So I didn't know what the, you know, how you schedule stuff like that.
So the protocol is that our licensing and inspection department, which is an umbrella, which is in our Department of Public Services, we have they send out enforcement officers. So if there's an issue relative to tree trimming, specifically with one homeowner, they would get a violation notice, and then they'd go through the enforcement process. Right. So if we can send an L&I inspector down your street, and start the enforcement process. Yep.
Yeah,
I reported it today.
Okay.
West 10th and West 11th.
Yeah.
You didn't put mine in there?
No, I didn't get your district. I will.
I appreciate the time, and I hate to bring up the rental thing and everything all the time. It's just really, I'm afraid something serious is going to happen. Right. People are really reaching their peak. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up.
Good afternoon. I have 2 issues too. One is the parking issue.
Could you do me one
on
favor?
the 200 block.
Could you do me one favor first? And
Sure.
just please,
I'm sorry,
your name
I
and
know
address.
better.
Yes, it's okay.
Deborah Stovall, 76 Poplar Street, and also 334 and a half East Elm Street. So I was here previously talking about freeing up some parking spaces in front of Aubrey Collins Park. And so I just wanted to know if there was any more information about that? Or is that Chief Metz that maybe he might have some information? I don't see him here, so maybe at the next meeting
He
or
will
something.
definitely be at the next meeting.
Yeah, so we'll get it then. My second comment is about the 200 block of Elm Street. And of course, the auto detailing place on Poplar Street. The pool place on the 300 block. So basically, the back of the property is kind of like a join or come together. In that area, it's a lot of, it's zoned, I know it's light industrial, but it looks more like it's zoned for a junkyard, especially the pool place. I just think that it's just so inconsiderate for the neighbors that have to deal with that and have dealt with that for quite a while. There's all kinds of vehicles, trucks, autos, all kinds of barrels, and just all kinds of debris that's been there over the years.
In the yard?
In the yard.
Okay.
Yes, in back of the pool place as well as the auto detailing place. They also have a lot of barrels next to the property, on both sides of the properties. I told you before about the cars that are parked up on the neighbor's yard. You know, it's just really sad that I'm not able to understand why that area of Conshohocken is so neglected. And I'm looking on Washington Street, I see office buildings, I see a hotel, apartment complexes, office towers, everything looks beautiful. That's at the lower end. That's in the 2nd and 3rd Ward. So I'm thinking like there got to be a lot of tax money coming from this area, but it's the most neglected, rundown, and it's because of the light industry that's there.
Right.
So why are they suffering like that? Why is it that, you know, that guy with the auto detailing, he has 3 cars at least on the neighbor's property.
Right.
Now, that property was sold earlier this year. So they are maintaining the property as far as cutting the grass, and I would imagine that some development would occur, but the impact of all of this is that it's bringing down the property values in that area. So I don't understand why that is allowed to be. That area, usually if that's your bread and butter for the town, then that's the area that you would want to take care of to make sure that that money continues to come in. There's a Fortune 500 company right on the corner.
Right.
There's people that's in the office buildings, they have visitors, people from out of town, and this is the image that's projected for Conshohocken. So I just don't understand why they're not made to clean it up. It's just such a disservice to the neighbors who have been there. Mm-hmm. Those homes are family homes that's been in those families for 60, 70 years plus. There is no development down in that area because nobody's going to come there and want to be right next to the pool place. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a nice sized yard that he has back there, but it's full of junk. I'm sure it has to be a health hazard too, because who knows what's in those barrels.
Right. Do we know if we did cite that company? Is that something we can just look into?
Ray and or Sergeant Connor, have we done an investigation of that site?
I know that we did discuss it.
Can you give an update relative to what has been done?
Thank you,
So
Sergeant
when we
Connor.
first had become aware of the complaint down behind the pool business, we had taken a look at it, and it was determined to be a code enforcement issue due to the zoning and some of the allowances of materials that are allowed to be stored in that zoning. It was beyond the scope of the police department, and just a real brief conversation that's in the hands of code enforcement. which comes down to looking at particular materials that are on that property. So it's going to be a matter of what the findings are in the investigation with code. It goes beyond the scope of the police department. Going back to a couple of minutes ago, we did have a conversation, Chief Metz and I, last month about a plan on how to address the 200 block in front of Aubrey Collins Park. So it's active, and we are actively taking care of it. So
That's good to hear that.
but the disposition he'll be able to address next month.
Okay, appreciate that.
Thank you, Sergeant Connor.
Sure.
I just want to say thank you to Officer Metz because, or Chief Metz, I should say now, because he did clear the cars out of Poplar Street that were sitting there for the auto detailing place, and it has made a difference. It's only 3 spots, but that area is so bad that 3 spots is a lot.
Right.
Okay, so I do appreciate that, and I'm definitely looking for some feedback.
Okay.
This is just the beginning of cleaning up the area in the Poplar Street, the 200 block of Elm Street, and the 300 block of Elm Street.
Okay.
I live there. I got 2 homes there. My family's been there for over 60 years, and I think it's uncalled for, and I think that with the restaurant right next door to me, the next meeting, I will tell you the horror of living next door to a restaurant where there's no controls.
Okay. And in the meantime, we will follow up with L&I and see the progress that
Okay, I
is being made.
appreciate
So
that.
we do have an answer for you.
All right, thank you.
You're
Have
welcome.
a good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Joe Farino from Old Elm Street. First, I want to say thank you to Stephanie. She's been great help on the issue that we're having down there. So I just want to give you that feedback. And I did want to ask, we have an upcoming grand meeting, so I just wanted to get clarification on what's going on with the dog park proposal down on Caldwell and West Elm, Haynes and Spotty.
I believe that the dog park, the new proposal has right now been put on hold.
Okay.
The attention has been directed at the dog park that we already have, and in making that usable again. And I know that our Parks and Recreation has put together new rules and things for the dog parks that we did not have in place. So our goal has been to get that dog park to where it needs to be because it wasn't. And in order to have one, we need one working and functioning the way it should be before we actually attempt to do another one.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think that makes perfect sense. Just want to give them an update. I got some people asking about it. So appreciate that, and I understand the PennDOT repaving has been a bit delayed, but hopefully that'll get done sooner than later. So appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Any more public comment?
Hi, my name's Deborah Ellis. I live down the street at 141 West 4th Avenue, and I came here because the big question, parking. We are overflowing with parking. We have a lot of rentals. We have people parking on a Thursday, coming back on a Monday or Tuesday. They don't even live in the area. They're just leaving with other people. I was at the zoning hearing on Monday. The apartment across the street that used to be the amusement company is now for sale. When it was the amusement company, it was a 4-bedroom apartment. It is now an 8-bedroom duplex. It's up for sale. With only one person in each bedroom, you have maybe 8 cars, maybe more. We need to do something. This is a big issue. I've been living here almost 23 years. Never seen it this bad. And if they want a committee, I will volunteer. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Tina? Add that to your list? She got it.
She took Miss Ellis's name for the parking committee.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mrs. Leonard.
Donald Morrison, 303 East 6th Ave. Just to give council a heads up and the borough crew know, the fight has 1-2 so far this year, and we're on our way out of town on Saturday morning. Normally, I would come to council and let people know that up at the football stadium on the B field side parking lot, this weekend, we're going to leave 4 cars there just to let everybody on council know that we're still doing our pass process over the years, leaving vehicles there. And I always like to let people know that the vehicles are there on the weekend and they don't have to be concerned why they're there overnight and for good safety keep in the past.
Okay.
And,
We appreciate that. Sergeant Connor is now well aware. He'll pass that along.
And second of all is we called the community center the other day, and just want to once again thank our park and rec director that the answer machine does have a nice new message on it, and we appreciate that very much. Again, because I was surprised when I heard it this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Donald. Any more public comment? Meeting adjourned.